Hello, I am back for day 3 of our story, and I think it's going to end up being a 6-day thing because I cannot read like 30 pages at a time. My throat was killing me last time. I also did 2 sections. 1 a day is my new limit. Chapter 6. Is the weather good for fishing? We must think what to do, Papa said. They are suspicious now. To be honest, I thought that if they came here at all, and I hoped they wouldn't, that they would just glance around, see that we had no place to hide anyone, and would go away. I'm sorry I have dark hair, Ellen murmured. It made them suspicious. Mama reached over quickly and took Ellen's hand. You have beautiful hair, Ellen, just like your mama, she said. Don't ever be sorry for that. Weren't we lucky that Papa thought so quickly and found the pictures? And weren't we lucky that Lise had dark hair when she was a baby? It turned blonde later on when she was 2 or so. In between, Papa added, she was bald for a while. Ellen and Anne-Marie both smiled tentatively. For a moment their fear was eased. Tonight was the first time Anne-Marie realized suddenly that Mama and Papa had spoken of Lise. The first time in 3 years. Outside, the sky was beginning to lighten. Mrs. Johansen went to the kitchen and began to make tea. I've never been up so early before, Anne-Marie said. Ellen and I will probably fall asleep in school today. Papa rubbed his chin for a moment, thinking. I think we must not take the risk of sending you to school today. It is possible that they will look for the Jewish children in the schools. Not go to school? Ellen asked in amazement. My parents have always told me that education is the most important thing. Whatever happens, I must get an education. This will only be a vacation, Ellen. For now, your safety is the most important thing. I'm sure your parents would agree. Inga? Papa called Mama in the kitchen. This is shaking. Stop it. Papa called Mama in the kitchen, and she came to the doorway with a teacup in her hand and a questioning look in her face. Yes? We must take the girls to Henrik's. You remember what Peter told us? I think today is the day to go to your brother's. Mrs. Johansen nodded. I think you're right. But I will take them. You must stay here. Stay here and let you go alone? Of course not. I wouldn't send you on a dangerous trip alone. Mama put a hand on Papa's arm. If only I go with the girls, it will be safer. They are unlikely to suspect a woman and her children. But if they are watching us, if they see all of us leave, if they are aware that the apartment is empty, that you don't go to your office this morning, then they will know. Then it will be dangerous. I am not afraid to go alone. It was very seldom that Mama disagreed with Papa. Anne-Marie watched his face and knew that he was struggling with a decision. Finally, he nodded, reluctantly. I will pack some things, Mama said. What time is it? Papa looked at his watch. Almost 5, he said. Henrik will still be there. He leaves around 5. Why don't you call him? Papa went to the telephone. Ellen looked puzzled. Who is Henrik? Where does he go at 5 in the morning? She asked. Anne-Marie laughed. He's my uncle, my mother's brother, and he's a fisherman. They leave very early, all the fishermen, each morning. Their boats go out at sunrise. Oh, Ellen, she went on, you will love it there. It is where my grandparents lived, where Mama and Uncle Henrik grew up. It is so beautiful, right on the water. You can stand on the edge of the meadow and look across to Sweden. She listened while Papa spoke on the telephone to Uncle Henrik, telling him that Mama and the children were coming for a visit. Ellen had gone into the bathroom and closed the door. Mama was still in the kitchen, so only Anne-Marie was listening. It was a very puzzling conversation. So, Henrik, is the weather good for fishing? Papa asked cheerfully and listened briefly. Then he continued, I am sending Inga to you today with the children, and she will be bringing you a carton of cigarettes. Yes, just one, he said after a moment. Anne-Marie couldn't hear Uncle Henrik's words. But there are a lot of cigarettes available in Copenhagen now, if you know where to look, he went on. And there will be others coming to you as well, I'm sure. But it wasn't true. Anne-Marie was quite certain it wasn't true. Cigarettes were the thing that Papa missed, the way that Mama missed coffee. He complained often. He had complained only yesterday that there were no cigarettes in the stores. The men in his office, he said, making a face, smoked almost anything, sometimes dried weeds rolled in paper, and the smell was terrible. Why was Papa speaking that way, almost as if he were speaking in code? What was Mama really taking to Uncle Henrik? Then she knew. It was Ellen. The train ride north along the Danish coast was very beautiful. Again and again they could see the sea from the windows. Anne Marie had made this trip often to visit her grandparents when they were alive, and later, after they were gone, to see the cheerful, sun-tanned, unmarried uncle whom she loved. But the trip was new to Ellen, who sat with her face pressed to the window, watching the lovely homes along the seaside, the small farms and villages. "Look," Anne Marie explained, and pointed to the opposite side. "It's Klampenborg and the deer park. Oh, I wish we could stop there just for a little while." Mama shook her head. "Not today," she said. The train did stop at the small Klampenborg station, but none of the passengers got off. "Have you ever been there, Ellen?" Mama asked, but Ellen said no. "Well, someday you will go. Someday you will walk through the park and you will see hundreds of deer, tame and free." Kirsty wiggled to her knees and peered through the window. "I don't see any deer," she complained. "They are there, I'm sure," Mama told her. "They are hiding in the trees." The train started again. The door at the end of the car opened and 2 German soldiers appeared. Anne Marie tensed. Not here, on the train, too. They were everywhere. Together the soldiers strolled through the car, glancing at passengers, stopping here and there to ask a question. One of them had something stuck in his teeth. He probed with his tongue and distorted his own face. Anne Marie watched with a kind of frightened fascination as the pair approached. One of the soldiers, looking down with a bored expression on his face. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Liège. That's what we're going with." Mama replied calmly. "My brother lives there. We are going to visit him." The soldier turned away and Anne Marie relaxed. Then, without warning, he turned back. "Are you visiting your brother for the New Year?" he asked suddenly. Mama stared at him with a puzzled look. "New Year?" she asked. "It's only October." And guess what?" Kirsty exclaimed suddenly in a loud voice, looking at the soldier. Anne Marie's heart sank, and she looked at her mother. Mama's eyes were frightful. "Shh, Kirsty," she said. "Don't chatter so." But Kirsty paid no attention to Mama, as usual. She looked cheerfully at the soldier, and Anne Marie knew what she was about to say. "This is our friend Ellen, and it's her New Year." But she didn't. Instead, Kirsty pointed to her feet. "I'm going to visit my Uncle Henrik," she chirped, "and I'm wearing my brand new shiny black shoes." The soldier chuckled and moved on. Anne Marie gazed through the window again. The trees, the Baltic Sea, and the cloudy October sky passed in a blur as they continued north along the coast. "Smell the air," Mama said as they stepped off the train and made their way to the narrow street. "Isn't it lovely and fresh? It always brings back memories for me." The air was breezy and cool and carried the sharp, not unpleasant smell of salt and fish. High against the pale clouds, seagulls soared and cried out as if they were in mourning. Mama looked at her watch. "I wonder if Henrik will be back yet. But it doesn't matter. The house is always unlocked. Come on, girls, we'll walk. It isn't far, just under 2 miles, and it's a nice day. We'll take the path through the woods instead of the road. It'll be longer, but it's so pretty." "Didn't you love the castle when you went through Helsinger, Ellen?" Kirsty asked. She had been talking about Kronborg Castle ever since they had seen it, sprawling massive and ancient beside the sea from the train. "I wish we could have stopped to visit the castle. Kings live there, and queens." Anne Marie sighed in exasperation with her little sister. "They do not," she said. "They did in the old days, but there aren't any kings there now. Denmark only has one king, anyway, and he lives in Copenhagen." But Kirsty had pranced away, skipping along the sidewalk. "Kings and queens," she sang happily, "kings and queens." Mama shrugged and smiled. "Let her dream, Anne Marie. I did the same when I was her age." She turned, leading the way along a tiny twisting street, heading towards the outskirts of the village. Things have hardly changed here since I was a girl, she said. My Aunt Giddy lives there in that house, she pointed, and she's been dead for years. Lived there in that house. But the house is the same. She always had wonderful flowers in her garden. She peered over the low stone wall and looked at the few flowering bushes as they passed the house. Maybe they still do, but it's the wrong time of year. There are just those few chrysanthemums left. And see, over there, she pointed again, my best friend, her name was Helena, lived in that house. Sometimes I used to spend the night with her, but more often she came to my house on the weekends. It was more fun to be in the country. My brother Henrik always teased us, though, she continued with a chuckle. He told us ghost stories and scared us half to death. The sidewalk ended, and Mama turned onto the dirt path bordered by trees. When I walked each morning into town for school, she said, my dog followed me this far. At the end of the path, he turned and went back home. I guess he was a country dog and didn't like town. And do you know what? She went on, smiling. I had named him Trofast, faithful. And it was just the right name for him, because what a faithful dog he was. Every afternoon, he was always right here waiting for me to return. He knew the right time somehow. Sometimes, as I come around this bend, even today, I feel as if I might come upon Trofast, waiting still with his tail wagging. But the path was empty today. No people, no faithful dogs. Mama shifted the bag she was carrying from one hand to the other, and they walked on through the woods until the path opened to a meadow dotted with cows. Here the path skirted the edge of the field, along a fence, and beyond it they could see the gray sea, ruffled by wind. The breeze moved the high grass. At the end of the pasture, they entered the woods again, and Anne-Marie knew they would soon be there. Uncle Henrik's house was in a clearing beyond these woods. Do you mind if I run ahead? She asked suddenly. I want to be the first to see the house. Go on, Mama told her. Run ahead and tell the house we've come home. Then she put her arm around Ellen's shoulders and said, say that we've brought a friend. Chapter 7. The House by the Sea. Oh, Anne-Marie, Ellen said with awe in her voice, it is beautiful. Anne-Marie looked around and nodded her head in agreement. The house and the meadows that surrounded it were so much a part of her childhood, a part of her life, that she didn't often look at them with fresh eyes. But now she did, seeing Ellen's pleasure. And it was true, they were beautiful. The little red-roofed farmhouse was very old, its chimney crooked and even the small shuttered windows tilted at angles. A bird's nest, wispy with straw, was half hidden in the corner where the roof met the wall above a bedroom window. Nearby, a gnarled tree was still speckled with a few apples now long past ripe. Mama and Kirsty had gone inside, but Anne-Marie and Ellen ran across the high-grassed meadow through the late wildflowers. From nowhere, a gray kitten appeared and ran beside them, pouncing here and there upon imagined mice, pausing to lick its paws, and then darting off again. It pretended to ignore the girls, but looked back often to be certain that they were still there, apparently pleased to have playmates. The meadow ended at the sea, and the gray water licked there a damp brown grass flattened by the wind and bordered by smooth, heavy stones. I have never been this close to the sea, Ellen said. Of course you have. You've been to the harbor in Copenhagen 1,000,000 times. Ellen laughed. I mean the real sea, the way it is here, open like this, a whole world of water. Anne-Marie shook her head in amazement. To live in Denmark, a country surrounded by water, and never to have stood at its edge? Your parents are really city people, aren't they? Ellen nodded. My mother is afraid of the ocean, she said, laughing. She said it is too big for her, and too cold. The girls sat on a rock and took off their shoes and socks. They tiptoed across the damp stones and let the water touch their feet. It was cold. They giggled and stepped back. Anne-Marie leaned down and picked up a brown leaf that floated back and forth with the movement of the water. Look, she said, this leaf may have come from a tree in Sweden. It could have blown from a tree into the sea and floated all the way across. See over there, she said, pointing. See that land? Way across there? That's Sweden. Ellen cupped one hand over her eyes and looked across the water at the misty shoreline that was another country. "It's not very far," she said. "Maybe," Anne-Marie suggested. "Standing over there are two girls just our age, looking across, saying, 'That's Denmark.'" They squinted into the hazy distance as if they might see Swedish children standing there and looking back. But it was too far. They saw only the hazy strip of land and two small boats bobbing up and down in the gray ruffles of separating water. "I wonder if one of those is your Uncle Henrik's boat," Ellen said. "Maybe. I can't tell. They are too far away. Uncle Henrik's boat is named Ingeborg," she told Ellen, "for Mama." Ellen looked around. "Does he keep it right here? Does he tie it up so that it won't float away?" Anne-Marie laughed. "Oh, no. In town, at the harbor, there's a big dock, and all the fishing boats go and come from there. That's where they unload their fish. You should smell it. At night they are there, anchored in the harbor." "Anne-Marie, Ellen!" Mama's voice came across the meadow. The girls looked around and saw her waving at them. They turned, picked up their shoes, and began walking toward the house. The kitten, who had settled comfortably on the stony shore, rose immediately and followed them. "I took Ellen down to show her the sea," Anne-Marie explained when they reached the place where Mama waited. "She'd never been that close before. We started to wade, but it was too cold. I wish we could come in summer so we could swim." "It's cold even then," Mama said. She looked around. "You didn't see anyone, did you? You didn't talk to anyone?" Anne-Marie shook her head. "Just the kitten." Ellen had picked it up, and it lay purring in her arms as she stroked its small head and talked to it softly. "I meant to warn you. You must stay away from people while we are here." "But there's no one around here," Anne-Marie reminded her. "Even so, if you see anyone at all, even someone you know, one of Heinrich's friends, it is better if you come in the house. It is too difficult, maybe even dangerous, to explain who Ellen is." Ellen looked up and bit her lip. "There aren't soldiers here, too?" she asked. Mama sighed. "I'm afraid there are soldiers everywhere, and especially now. This is a bad time. Come in now and help me fix supper. Heinrich will be home soon. Watch the step. It's loose. Do you know what I have done? I found enough apples for applesauce. Even though there is no sugar, the apples are sweet. Henrik will bring home some fish, and there is wood for a fire, so tonight we will be warm and well fed." "It is not a bad time, then," Anne-Marie told her. "Not if there's applesauce." Ellen kissed the kitten's head and let it leap from her arms to the ground. It darted away and disappeared in the tall grass. They followed Mama into the house. That night, the girls dressed for bed in the small upstairs bedroom they were sharing, the same bedroom that had been Mama's when she was a little girl. Across the hall, Kirsty was already asleep in the wide bed that had once belonged to Anne-Marie's grandparents. Ellen touched her neck after she had put on Anne-Marie's flower-sprigged nightgown, which Mama had packed. "Where's my necklace?" she asked. "What did you do with it?" "I hid it in a safe place," Anne-Marie told her. "A very secret place where no one will ever find it. And I will keep it there for you until it is safe for you to wear it again." Ellen nodded. "Papa gave it to me when I was very small," she explained. She sat down on the edge of the old bed and ran her fingers along the handmade quilt that covered it. The flowers and birds, faded now, had been stitched onto the quilt by Anne-Marie's great-grandmother many years before. "I wish I knew where my parents are," Anne-Marie said in a small voice as she outlined one of the appliqued birds with her finger. Anne-Marie didn't have an answer for her. She patted Ellen's hand, and they sat together silently. Through the window, they could see a thin, round slice of moon appear through the clouds against the pale sky. The Scandinavian night was not very dark yet, though soon, when winter came, the nights would not only be dark but very long, night skies beginning in the late afternoon and lasting through morning. From downstairs they could hear Mama's voice and Uncle Henrik's talking, catching up on news. Mama missed her brother when she hadn't seen him for a while, Anne-Marie knew. They were very close. Mama always teased him gently for not marrying. She asked him, laughingly, when they were together, whether she had found a good wife yet, one who would keep his house tidier. Henrik teased back and told Mama that she should come to Gillige, Gillige? I don't remember how I said it earlier. To live again so that he wouldn't have to do all the chores by himself. For a moment, to Anne Marie, listening, it seemed like all the earlier times, the happy visits to the farm in the past, with summer daylight extending beyond bedtime and the children tucked away in their bedrooms and the grown-ups downstairs talking. But there was a difference. In the earlier times, there had always overheard laughing. Tonight, there was no laughter. So that's all I'm reading today. And come back tomorrow for some more. Bye.